They say spring is the beginning of many things. The bitter cold has passed and life gradually returns to the land. Leaves turn green, flowers bloom, and the birds sing every morning to welcome the new season. Poetic, but it's true. You see, where I'm from, it's either rain or shine, and what I saw here in Japan and Korea, I would say the poets are right. I was here last year, cycling on the best mountain roads in Japan. Call it an addiction, but I wanted more this year. So here I am, exploring Korea and Japan. Stick with me or us as we immerse ourselves in East Asia, exploring and taking in all the good vibes these two countries have to offer this spring. Japan is made up of 4 main islands: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu, and right now we are in Kyushu. I came here for the warmer weather, perfect for cycling, exploring, and just being outside. What I didn't expect was to stumble into one of the most underrated and stunning regions in the country. Nonetheless, I'm super excited and I hope you are too. Somewhere in the Miyazaki prefecture is where we call home for the next couple of weeks. This location is a perfect base to explore the nature of Kyushu, with the Kirishima Kinkowa National Park right at our doorstep. This region is also home to some of the most active volcanoes in Japan. That should spice things up a bit. Farmers run this place here in Takaharu, and we quietly check into a modest Japanese home surrounded by rice fields. This house has everything we need for a short stay. The house is old, but it's very comfortable and livable. As much as possible, we tried to continue our life as usual with some adjustments. I was still training indoors most of the time. My diet was still pretty much the same. We also cook most of the time. The nearest supermarket is 8 minutes away, but we prefer the bigger and more modern one in the city of Kobayashi. Well, I didn't come all the way here just to experience living in the countryside. I came here to find the best road cycling experience in Japan. From Takaharu, I made my way to Lake Miike, one of the many crater lakes in this region. I then officially passed through the volcano cluster on the following day. We head north towards Ebino City and then made the ascent from the northern side. There are quite a few sakura streets, but this was the first one I've been on. We arrived right at the beginning of the sakura season and these flowers are still in the early stages of blooming. I've never seen sakura in Japan before and I was very excited for what's to come. I hope you are too. Japan's intense geological activity has shaped a land full of natural wonders. From the same starting point, I have access to some renowned spots in Kyushu. Nature aside, the Japanese culture is deeply embedded in the island of Kyushu. It's said to be the place where gods first descended onto Earth. Shinto shrines were built and rebuilt over 1,000 years to honor the gods. Japan is known for its preservation of its history and culture, and a key piece of history lies in its castles, many of which were built hundreds and even 1,000 years ago. I found some and created a castle loop around the Miyazaki prefecture. This epic castle loop heads eastward using Route 268. We first arrived at Amaga Castle. It's situated at the top of a hill. Cherry blossoms were near full bloom when I was there. It was a sight to behold. There's a park right outside the castle with vendors setting up stores. I'm sure the locals had an amazing hanami here at the castle. From there, I make my way to the next castle at Aya. The Aya castle was a little more elusive. It blended perfectly with its surroundings. I could only admire it from afar, with the blooming sakura trees as my companion. To close the loop, the route takes us into the forest. I pass by the majestic Takaharu suspension bridge, then deep into the forest roads of Miyazaki. The forest roads were peaceful, quiet, and beautiful. And personally, the best Sakura experience might just be the once in a while. It would be nice if it was all pretty and smooth, but the reality is far from it. Some stretches of these roads were poorly maintained, maybe even forgotten. There were rocks scattered all over the road, which makes cycling pretty treacherous, especially in the descents. I must have missed a sign, but damaged roads like this are fairly common in the mountains. In the south of Takaharu is Miyakonojo City. It's a large city when you compare it with the countryside town of Takaharu. My wife and I frequent this city quite a fair bit during our time here. It was a city where we could get our supplies. We also found the famous sushi tora here. We didn't know about it. We were just looking for a dinner quick fix, but it turned out to be one of the best sushi we've ever had. It's always crowded, and as of today, it operates exclusively in Kyushu. While scouring the internet for my next ride, I found another castle. This one's in Miyakonojo. Gasanhiwa Castle is located on the outskirts of Miyakonojo City. It is built atop a hill, giving it a vantage view of the city below. It's a beautiful piece of history, no doubt, but it was just the appetizer for what's to come. We head eastward using Route 269. Our destination is one of the biggest and most elusive climbs in Kyushu, Mount Wanitsuka. We arrive at the town of Tano, and from here, it's a 1,000 meters climb to the top of Mount Wanitsuka. Despite climbing quite a fair bit of mountains over these past 3 years of cycling, it's still a very humbling experience looking at the summit of these mountains from the very bottom. Every stroke of the pedal brings us closer to the goal. It seems far and even absurd at times, but with enough time, you'll get there eventually. This seems to apply very well in life as well. The climb to the summit of Mount Wanitsuka was perhaps one of the best I've ever done on this trip. It's quiet, serene, and the roads were fairly well maintained. The radio tower signaled the end of the climb. The view at the summit was pretty spectacular as well. It was well worth the climb. Right at the southernmost tip of Kyushu is the Kagoshima prefecture. We came here to escape the spring chills. Cherry blossoms were still in the midst of blooming, and there were many places to enjoy the flowers here in Kagoshima. But first, food. From Kagoshima city, we head south along the coastline towards Ibusuki. Riding along the coastline sounds pretty fun, but given a choice, I would always take the mountains. Coastlines leave you vulnerable to wind, which might not be ideal if it's against you. It's also usually flat, and that usually means traffic. My experience with Route 226 was pretty mixed. While the coastlines are beautiful, the roads are narrow and pretty busy at times. I had to be extra careful. After 38 kilometers, I exited the coastline and headed inland. Right at the southernmost tip lies a fabled volcano, Dake. It has long been an iconic and important landmark of the Kagoshima Bay. It's also called the Fuji of Satsuma due to its almost perfect cone shape. I was really excited to pay a visit to this legendary volcano. There are no roads to the summit, but you can circumvent it. To do that, I needed to enter the Kaimon tunnel. It was dark, chilly, narrow, and quite eerie to be honest. I was happy to see the light at the end. Once I got out, it was pretty again. I rode along the waves of the volcano with a view of the open sea. It was nice. After going around Dake, I took a break at a cafe nearby, but it was time to head back to the city. I closed the loop by taking the Ibusuki Skyline. It's a 500-meter climb and the road is maintained at this elevation for the next 40 kilometers. This peaceful mountain road will take me all the way back to Kagoshima city. Right in the heart of Kagoshima Bay lies the most active volcano in all of Japan, Sakurajima. Despite being very active, the Japanese have learned to live with it. There are thousands of residents and the Sakurajima ferry runs 24 hours, taking people to and fro the island from Kagoshima city. And yes, that was where I was headed the following day. It's a 15-minute ferry ride from Kagoshima city and the cost is 250 yen per way. The plan was to circumvent the island clockwise so that I could hug the coastline and make my way up to the Yunohira observation deck at the end. It wasn't a difficult ride. It's only 36 kilometers around the island. There are no epic climbs to take on, but to be there and learn about the place and feel the power of Sakurajima up close was something special. One of the reasons we came so early in spring was for the cherry blossoms. I know there are bigger, grander and more popular places for Hanami, but Fukuoka did not disappoint. Fukuoka is the largest city in Kyushu. Day and night, the streets were busy. It's quite a stark contrast to the countryside. The city is also known for its vibrant street food culture known as yatai. We got to try some food at one of the many yatais in the streets. It was quite a fun experience, but the food wasn't very good. We visited Maizuru Park to enjoy the cherry blossoms in full bloom. It was crowded and everyone was very happy. And because this particular period lasts only a few days, it's very much celebrated and cherished by the Japanese people. The park was packed with action throughout the entire day. It was filled with street food stalls and everyone was just soaking in this very joyous moment. We were excited to blend in and dig into the delicious looking street food. Unfortunately, this wasn't it as well. But you know, we understand it's more about the experience than the food itself. We also explored another park at Umi no Nakamichi. This is a huge park and it was crowded as well. Everything was in bloom and it was beautiful. The truth is, I fell ill and didn't manage to ride. I returned to Fukuoka 12 days later and did a full day ride outside of the city. You see, the magic of Fukuoka and Kyushu in general is the proximity between nature and civilization. Nature is just a stone's throw away from Fukuoka, And that leads us to a mountain range just south of the city. Today's route is a story of two climbs. The first one starts immediately and we are on our way to Kusenbuyama. It's a 700 meters climb. Once I got off the main road, it's basically a cycling paradise. The early sections of the forest climb feature a bamboo grove, which is quite different from the typical Japanese cedar that we see most of the time. The climb to the top wasn't tough, the gradient was carefully spread across the climb, and I found myself surrounded by these huge radio towers at the top. There weren't any views and I was a little disappointed, to be honest. However, I later found out through the drone that there's actually a pavilion that would give you a 360-degree view of the surrounding cities. Unfortunately, it would require a short hike to get there. So whatever the drone sees is what you and I see as well. After carefully descending Kusenbuyama, we are on our way to the next climb of the day. Just 35 kilometers away lies the peak of Mount Sefuri. There are many ways to get there, but somehow I was limited to a single way due to multiple road closures for maintenance. This route includes a tolled road and a tunnel which could have been avoided. Tunnels are usually dark, cold and narrow. As much as possible, I would try to avoid tunnels just for safety purposes. This one was alright. Just meters from the toll gate lies the Karahoke Bridge. It's a hidden photo spot for motor enthusiasts with its spiral road and a beautiful view of the city below. The road condition to Mount Sefuri was much better. It's wider and there is less debris on the floor. The gradient was very evenly spread out, making the climb very comfortable. I comfortably made it to the top and was met with metal fences and no view. Drones are also restricted, so I have to respect the rules. Determined not to be disappointed again, I decided to make the toughest climb of the day. These steps lead us to the observatory where an old shrine rests atop the 1,000 meter tall mountain. It was a special feeling cycling through a place filled with so much history. I know there are a lot more to this area, and I hope I will be able to explore and learn more about it in the future. Geographically, Mount Aso felt like the heart of Kyushu. I've long heard of its beauty and I was really excited to ride along one of the largest caldera in the world. The first ride didn't go too well. I had multiple punctures and I barely made it back to the car after exhausting all my spare tubes. That was actually a blessing in disguise because it gave me a bit of time to explore and learn about the city of Kumamoto. I met with my wife in the city and we explored the iconic Kumamoto castle. This powerful landmark of Kumamoto was built in the early 1600s and can be immediately recognized by its majestic black walls. The area was lively with visitors and it was beautifully accompanied by the cherry blossoms in full bloom. My wife had already visited it in the morning, so it was just me exploring this ancient castle alone. A ticket is required to enter the castle, and I got to tour around the castle premises. The main keep has reopened after the 2016 earthquake that devastated Kyushu. It's reinforced with anti-seismic technology to protect the castle. What I loved most was how each level told a different part of the castle's history. It wasn't just learning, it felt like I was living it. My wife and I also got a little competitive with the photos we captured. Tell us what you think. We also managed to do a bit of sightseeing the following day. We drove to Aso Sakurajima, but because of the temperature difference, the cherry blossoms will only bloom a week later. We then moved south with our B&B as our destination and managed to visit a few places along the way. Let's not forget the main mission. I returned to Aso the following week to finally complete the ride. The ride started in the south of Aso. This route takes us around the caldera, onto the famous Milk Road in the north, before descending into the caldera and then onto the peak of the volcano. It didn't take long before I was riding alongside the blooming cherry blossoms of Aso. I added Sakurajima to today's route, and it felt completely different from just a week ago. The locals were all out, it's like they just knew. The road got crowded. For a moment it was lawless, but in that grey zone there was patience, respect and a quiet understanding that somehow kept everything moving. Knowing that it's extremely short-lived, to be able to enjoy it for another week was a real bonus. The landscape changed dramatically as I reached the edge of the caldera. It felt like another planet. That surreal feeling was amplified by the blackened fuels from Aso's controlled burning, known as noyaki. It's a tradition that has been practiced for over 1,000 years, helping to preserve the grasslands that made Aso so unique. Dairy farms have operated in Aso for generations, and this very road was once used by local drivers to deliver fresh Aso milk to nearby towns. In the summer, the landscape turned rich green and a sea of grass stretched endlessly across the caldera, but unfortunately, we are too early for that. The views from the edge of the caldera had been truly mesmerizing, but I haven't forgotten the final boss. I descend into the city of Aso from the caldera, and after 4 hours of cycling, it was a relief to see a convenience store. Just needed to refuel a bit more before taking on the volcano. From there, it was just a 600-meter climb to the top of the volcano. After finally reaching the top, it was disheartening to see a toll gate that became a blocker between me and another 100-meter climb to the top where you could see the craters. It also looked pretty busy and narrow, and ultimately, I decided not to make the climb. It wasn't an easy decision because I wasn't sure what I was missing out, but it felt right at that moment. I might have missed out on an epic ride to the craters of Mount Aso, but if there's one thing Kyushu is not short of, it's volcanoes. Just a ferry ride away from Kumamoto city, another volcano was beckoning. This time, we head westward towards Shimabara, a city in the Nagasaki prefecture. You can drive there, but taking the ferry shaves 2 hours of travelling each way. Shimabara is a city rich with history. Long before the peace we see today, there were rebellions, destructions, and eruptions. The dust has long settled, but the city stood the test of time. Watching over this historical city stood Mount Unzen. Its powerful presence was overwhelming, and the thought of climbing it became pretty humbling very quickly. We began our ascent just 5 kilometers into the ride. Thereafter, it's a 1,100 meters climb to the peak. This was one of the few pure climbing routes I've created in Kyushu. Small towns, cedar forests, and defiant cherry blossom flowers were my friends as I ascended up the volcano in the late spring. We arrived at Unzen Jikoku as the first stop of the climb. This was an afterthought, but I was glad I stopped here. It's a small onsen resort where I felt the might of the volcano seeping through the earth. Every climb ends with the view, and that's where we are headed. Nita Pass is 10 kilometers away, and there are still 400 meters of climbing left to do. You get a view of Shimabara city and beyond from the second Nita Pass. This was satisfying. Unzen Nita Pass was just a stone's throw away, and with that, our mini adventure in Nagasaki comes to a close. To be honest, I would be lying if I told you that Kyushu has the best road cycling in Japan, because it isn't, and that's just the truth. Many roads were closed and not very well maintained. However, my wife and I have grown attached to the place. There is a certain draw to Kyushu. This has made this trip to the southernmost tip of Japan a little emotionally heavy. This was farewell. Kagoshima is shaped like a pincer. The left side is called Satsuma Peninsula. We have already been there if you recall. On the right, we have the Old Sumi Peninsula. Today's route started somewhere along the coast of Kanoya. We would hug the coastline for 12 kilometers before moving inland into the mountains. Throughout the ride, I could feel the sparseness of the peninsula in these roads, and I really don't want to seem dramatic, but I felt a bit connected to the land. More emotions started to flood in as I entered the mountain roads. I didn't know what it was until I saw the sign for Route 68. This was also why I chose to express this video the way it is. It reminded me of the Pokemon game I played as a kid. Almost 30 years later, I felt the adventure again with my bicycle. Seeing the coast again felt like it signaled the end of my time here in Japan. Cape Sata was my final destination. There was quite a crowd there. I think it meant something different to everyone. And that's it. This concluded my time in Japan. We loved and thoroughly enjoyed our time here in Kyushu. There is still a lot to explore in Kyushu. I'm not sure when, but we'll see you again.